Okay, good morning, everyone. We'll give it a minute to get everybody in the room. Okay, so there's people still joining, but we're going to go ahead and get started to keep everybody on time here today. So I'll just go from left screen over. So Matt, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your thoughts in getting this work panel started.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks so much. Thrilled to be here. Thanks everyone for joining. My name is Matt Osborn. I head up leasing for California for WeWork. I oversee our almost 90 properties and about 7 million square feet of locations from Sacramento, Bay Area, LA, down to Orange County and San Diego. Thrilled to be here. And, just a couple thoughts as we get into this that I wanted to share that I think has just kind of been an interesting time, obviously, for all of us. This pandemic has certainly changed everything we do at home and how we work literally overnight. And clearly, obviously, it's testing us in a lot of different ways. But I would tell you, and we see this with a lot of customers, certainly some universal truths have become stronger here. And it transcends work, where you do it and how you do it. It's connectivity, collaboration, human empathy. These are important whether you're at home, in an office at home, working at your kitchen table, to being back in the office or trying to figure out how to navigate what the new normal looks like. And one of the things we see a lot, and we'll probably touch on this a fair amount in this, is one of the things that people keep asking us about is flexibility and what we can do to provide that, because the hardest thing we're dealing with right now is not knowing, number one, what to do, let alone what to do in 6 months, a year, or 2, 5, or 10 years down the line. So that's something that I think, we continue to look at, whether it's helping folks figure out private office solutions that are safe and clean, to providing things like our all access program, which is you can reserve a hot desk anywhere within our locations, for example, all throughout LA, when you want it, how you want it. Or if you're a bigger corporation looking at hub and spoke models, either across the metro here or across the globe. So, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is people want what they want, when they want it, how they want it, and it's only getting stronger every single day. So I'm thrilled to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
We'll move to you, Scott, if you want to share a little bit about yourself and give your intro on our working from home versus return to work.
Thank you, Shauna. Good morning, everybody. I'm pleased to be a part of this event and on the panel. Lean Associates has been a member of VICA for as long as I can remember, and I've been going to meetings periodically over the years. And I want to thank Stuart, Wellman, and Sean for inviting me and letting me participate today. As she mentioned, my name is Scott Romick. I'm the principal and managing director of Lean Associates. I specialize in office leasing, tenant representation, landlord representation, and sales for both investors and owner users. Matt and I are kind of two sides of the same coin. He does different kind of real estate, I do different kind of real estate. But I've been working in real estate for 30 years, and I've been through a few recessions and a few additional market cycles. But this current market condition is the most unique. There really is no normalcy anymore. As it relates to my business, the panel name, work from home, return to office, takes into a lot of different variables in consideration for this whole thing. Heavy emphasis on the regulations imposed upon us by the local and state governments for the pandemic and shutdown. However, more evident is the health and welfare of employees. And equally relevant is the perception of those employees. Who is comfortable going into the office? Who wants to work at home? There are 100 different reasons. I've probably watched more videos and read more articles in the last 10 months than I have in the last 30 years. And there is no consensus. To each your own. There is no one customized approach. Everyone's learned to work differently. I was the kind of guy, come in the morning, leave the house, get to work early, work all day. Even I can work at home in the mornings and fluctuate. So if I can change, everyone else can change. The results of all these dynamics has turned the real estate market inside and out. Working with our clients, it's more customized than ever because each business is unique and there isn't a one size fits all approach that fits to those businesses and potential workplace changes. WeWork type environment is one of those items that people will consider. The circumstances are different for everybody. And in the last 10 months of going through all our clients, we have a lot of stories to tell, a lot of experience to help out, and hopefully some of that knowledge will help you all today if we can. Glad to be here. Appreciate your time.
Now we'll move over to Susan. So just a little bit about yourself and then getting us started on that work from home discussion.
Well, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Susan Becker, and I am with Synergy Global Housing. I'm the Managing Director of Sales for the Western region of Synergy. And a little bit about who Synergy is. Synergy Global Housing is a hospitality company offering fully furnished accommodations for short-term and extended stay across the globe. We have offices around the world, including one right here in Los Angeles. And, you know, to echo Matt, the pandemic has been pretty dreadful for all of us as we try to navigate through this unfamiliar world. And as a hospitality provider, we had to pivot pretty quickly in order to survive. In June, we introduced a Synergy Cares, which is a 9-point commitment to health and safety. And it's been integrated into our culture, and it's a part of everything that we do. It's not just about disinfectants and electrostatic sprayers and housekeeping PPE. Synergy Cares has evolved into a way of life that drives our culture and how we care for our employees, our guests, and our partners. It's really a model for the industry as a whole. So I'm here today to share the perspective of work from home and or return to the office from the world of hospitality.
And last but not least, Andy, if you want to share a little bit with us, and then after that, we'll pass it over to Victor to continue with our moderation.
Sure. Thank you, Shauna, and thank you, everybody. I'm Andy Marshall. I'm Executive Vice President of US Ecology. I'm responsible for our regulatory compliance programs and health and safety of our employees. To give a little bit of background of US Ecology and kind of maybe frames some of the challenges we've had on really protecting our employees within this whole pandemic, but also our work from home challenges. We're a publicly traded company, and we provide environmental services predominantly in North America. So we've got locations in Mexico, the US, and Canada. We also have locations in the UK and Europe. We have approximately 3,600 employees. So the primary services that we provide is we manage industrial and hazardous waste from the point of collection from a generator site all the way through transportation and delivering that to our disposal facilities that are located throughout North America. But another big piece of what we do is provide emergency response. And so we have crews that provide services. They need to be ready at a moment's notice and respond to any type of an event that could span from a truck rollover that spills fuel on the interstate to, a more recent response was that USS Bonham ship in San Diego on a much larger scale. And we have to mobilize a lot of people many times, and it can be quite complex on manning these responses. We are considered an essential service. On a lot of the guidance that the states put out and the federal government gave out. And one of our biggest focuses in here is how do we maintain operation, right, and maintain readiness through this entire program. Another area that has been a big part of our consideration on protecting employees and how we keep people segregated and some of the thoughts is as these needs have developed through the pandemic, a lot of our emergency response services shifted quite a bit. And so far this year, we've done approximately 3,500 emergency responses just related to COVID-19 contamination and response. And this is all around trying to keep other businesses, whether it be factories, it's senior centers, whatever it might be, to keep other businesses operating. And it really created some challenges on controls and how we establish strict controls to protect our employees. And the whole work from home discussion kind of fits into the middle of this on one, fairness of employees from being able to allow some people to work from home and others not, and also trying to address the concerns of the employees that feel that they might be put at more risk because they can't stay out of the office or out of the work environment. So anyway, I look forward to the questions and discussion through this topic. Thank you.
So now I just wanted to take a moment before we jump in even further and hear more from our speakers to thank our track sponsor, the University of Phoenix, and our panel sponsor, Synergy Global Housing. And now I'll go ahead and pass it over to our moderator, Victor Berrellez, who is the first vice chair of VICA and vice president with US FAIC. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate the help here and the assist while I had some technical problems, and welcome all of our panelists here. Thanks very much. One more bit of housekeeping here. I wanted to let everyone in the panel listening in to know the best way to ask a question is for them to click on the link below for Zoom, and then you can type in a question that the speakers will see and they can answer directly. Or if you want to stay on Pathable, please send your question through the chat box on Pathable. The VICA staff will forward the question to me, and I can relate it to the panelists here, whoever is best suited for that particular question. So, here we are with this particular situation. Each of you has a unique perspective from your professional backgrounds, but we all have worked from home. And what's happened, I think, for me personally, is that my day is expanded. I'm not as efficient, let's say, as I used to be at the office. And so work from home has kind of really morphed into living at work for me personally. So it's a bit of a challenge here. But taking a look at specific things, Susan, what is temporary housing, and how can it help support a safer return to the office? In what situations can it be useful?
Well, temporary housing, as I mentioned before, is a short-term furnished accommodations. It's also a safe alternative option to a hotel. It's more of a private space with a less transient community. And optionality is key in an uncertain world for both the corporate traveler and the company that they work for. Duty of care is so important for the corporation that's moving their employee. And as the temporary housing solution for that corporation, it's our duty to care. So, we kind of asked ourselves, what could we offer professionals who need a safe and reliable environment where they could be productive? And what if we could build alternative dedicated workspaces for their employees looking to efficiently work remotely while remaining safe and productive, all in the comfort and convenience of our world-class serviced accommodations? Through our ever-evolving Synergy Cares program, Synergy Work was born. So Synergy Work ties all the luxury and ease of our traditional service departments and products and services with the added benefit of custom working from home setup. It features functional home and office configurations with a wide variety of custom furniture and hardware options.
That sounds pretty luxurious.
Yeah, it's pretty fancy, but it really kind of gears towards the working parents, the C-suite executive, really kind of to build their own live workspace to the exact spec of their demanding careers. And we make sure our ecosystem around our services is safe and reliable and controlled, really providing our customers the ability to control their space to be whatever they need it to be, whether they're using it solely as an office because they can't return to work, or working at home with 3 dogs and 2 cats and a tremendous amount of attention and are super noisy like my situation, or whether you're working at home with your kids and they need school and the bandwidth is shot and they need to go somewhere to be productive. Or maybe they've been hired by a new company and they need to relocate, but they're only going to the office Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and they need a workable space in their temporary home. So the working environment today is different. Like you said, it's not a 40-hour week. Sometimes it's way longer. I'm finding it way longer, but it's definitely more flexible, and it can also be more taxing on the employee working from home, and they have to find a balance. And when we created Synergy Work, we were trying to define the balance and really create an alternative space between the sanctuary of home and the productivity of space. So this is our solution to our new normal, kind of a re-engineered professional society. And right now it's our all-encompassing answer to the work from home future that kind of stares us in the face every single day.
Yeah. So my question would be then an option from Synergy Global Housing would be available to an individual then also, not just somebody traveling for company work.
Oh, absolutely. Synergy is available to anyone who needs that space. So if you are relocating for work, or if you're just trying to get out of your house and look for another additional space, we provide that. Or if you're an individual that's just looking for a temporary housing solution, it's really open to anybody.
Right. So I had a friend who had to relocate for a new job. He moved his computer from his bedroom down to the kitchen table. So I guess that relocation for today, but nonetheless.
Yes.
Let me move on to Scott. Scott, I wanted to thank you for being here today. As you said, Lee and Associates has been a great member of VICA for many, many years, and you spend time in the 818, you see Lee and Associates signs everywhere. You're a great presence here. But from a brokerage point of view, let's say, commercial real estate is certainly in flux right now. And when do you think people and businesses will go back to the office at full capacity? What it used to be close to normal, what we used to know it.
It's a good question. It's an unanswerable question in its entirety, but take away regulations if you're essential or not. To me, it's really about perception. Perception for your ownership, perception for the management, perception on the employees. Do you perceive that it's safe to go back? Do you perceive that it's intelligent to go back? You need to go back. Take away all the regulations and all the potential. You can't be there. I'm in the office. I come to work every day. We have short staff here. I choose to. I was the kind of person that came to work at quarter 8 in the morning. I felt I had to get to work, but I've changed my style. So people going back to work, it's a combination of their corporation, their business. Some businesses can work from home. Some people like to work from home. I don't like working from home. I can now work at home for an hour in the morning after work, but I don't like being there. You said you're living at your office. Same thing. Some people have children, dogs, pets, construction. Some people don't have the facility. They don't have an extra office or an extra room where they could work quietly. Mentally, when you're at home all day long, and then you go from the kitchen office to the dining room office to the TV room, you're in the same environment. It's not very healthy. We've read and heard and seen thousands of surveys, thousands of reports. So when is someone going to go back? It's all up to each. I have clients who are absolutely going back to work. Some have never really left. Some are working from home 100%. Some have leases that have expired that they decided to say, hey, I'm working from remotely now. I'm just going to forgo my lease and I'll kick the can till either after the election, after the new year, or after the vaccine comes around. Many different answers. There are a lot of businesses I've met that said they absolutely want to go back. All of them have said a certain percentage of their employees can work from home. But the flip side is, my office here, we're all in cubicles. We are renovating the space for offices. So when you have cubicles, and with COVID, you're going to make into offices, or even if you have an open work plan, you are going to spread them out, which increases the square footage. There are many people who are still working from home. Again, some like it, some don't. I think right now the whole year is written off. There's a stat I've heard, depends on the city, 30%, 27%, 35% are actually going to work. That's businesses. Now in that business, maybe a third to a half are actually coming into the office. People read the headlines, which is dangerous. Tech companies not going back to work ever. Well, that's not really true. Amazon, Facebook took a lot of space in the Los Angeles market. San Francisco, where Susan is dead, completely quiet. But some of these companies might decentralize by having, instead of having 5 million square feet in one location, they might spread them out into 3 or 4 locations. Commuting's a factor. People don't want to come in because commuting's miserable. I live 3 miles from my office. It's wonderful. I have one partner of mine drives an hour to the day. So all those factors are case by case. In addition, it's the ownership and the management of the company. Are they partners? Do you have executives? Do you have salespeople? Do you have support staff? Can your job function well outside the office? The answer probably is it can function, but can it function well? So it's case by case. I'm speculating that we won't see a lot more activity until second quarter next year. I am seeing a lot of smaller businesses going back to work, signing leases. Some of the fire businesses, financial, insurance, real estate, they are continuing. Entertainment, quiet, dead, quiet everywhere. So to answer your question in a long way, I'm speculating first quarter next year, we'll start seeing a wave going back to work in a safe environment.
That's an interesting point. I think, not only are there a lot of business issues and business reasons and circumstances, but I think individual employees are chomping to get back to what they consider normal, back to the office, things like that. That's really kind of where a lot of the factors come in. And Andy, I wanted to ask you, U.S. Ecology is certainly an essential business with a lot of employees that have to show up for work. And maybe it's not in an office environment. But how do you guys handle it? And specifically, let's say that they work in different places if they're working from home. There are other factors involved like workers' comp. How does that apply? I don't know if you know the answer, but maybe you could try and make something up as we go.
Yeah, well, I can say this has been a complicated, I think, effort for us to maneuver through. I think kind of starting with a little bit, because I think all of our, I look at the work from home issue and it kind of relates to our bigger picture of really trying to manage the safety of our employees, right? I mean, we have an obligation to our other employees to make sure we're not, spreading illness within our organization, but we also need to protect our own employees, and we have to maintain business continuity. And so, one of the things, I guess the process we went through a bit was immediately out of the gate was to really focus on giving some guidance to all of our locations, because we're dealing with over 100 locations and trying to get some consistency. And some of that guidance was really related. Initially, we thought it was more preventative, right? But we went from preventative to action within 3 weeks, I think, of this thing kicking in. And part of that process was having our folks every location did a business continuity plan, looking at staffing, who can work from home, and what positions have to be here to be able to keep the machine running, right? Or be on call to be able to go out and do the jobs that we need to do. And, probably immediately when those, I think we anticipated it to be a several month process. We put together the plans and as things progressed, but as this progressed so quickly, I mean, we jumped in pretty quickly to implement, our work from home program. And I would bucket our employees into probably 4 categories. One is, we have a number of folks, probably just about a quarter of our employees that work in a position that's a support function that can work from home, right? I mean, they don't need to be in the office. They can provide their function from home. And so those folks were moved home as quick as we could. Did we have complications? Yeah. I mean, it went smoother than probably what I thought, but a lot of IT issues, you know, just trying to get connections. Some people weren't set up on VPN type connections. I mean, there was a number of positions that weren't normally traveling and they didn't have their system set up right. And so there's a lot of pressure on IT to get that resolved. But the next bucket of folks are folks that work at our fixed facilities that don't, you know, they may not, we have a whole group of people that need to show up to run, I'll call it the factory, right? Now they got to show up and do a task. And a lot of those programs that we tried to do to provide, for us, it turned into flexibility, right? I mean, working from home provided our office workers, I guess our support functions, flexibility to deal with the kids' issues, the family issues, elderly parents. I mean, all the things that we all had to deal with, right? But when you force somebody to come into work every day and they have to come into work every day, they have a much more difficult time dealing with that. And so, you know, maybe it's not truly work from home, I suppose, but flexibility was really important to us to try to, can we alter shifts? Can we do other things to provide more flexibility for people to spend time at home, even though they can't perform their jobs there? I think another area of employee that we had challenges with is drivers, right? We have a number of folks. We might have, I would say, 400 trucks on the road at any day. And some of our drivers drive, you know, they might go on routes that they're gone all week and then they come back home. And, you know, obviously that can't easily be a work from home position, but it introduces its own challenges relative to that worker safety. And then of course we have the folks that are working in the field, and probably those folks that are responding to the COVID response were the easiest for us because we know what we're facing every day, right? We're facing these exposures and we can protect those employees from those exposures. But as it relates, I mean, you kind of raise an issue, and I saw a question pop up on workers' comp. You know, we do, and how do you maintain workers' safety? You know, what happens if an injury occurs at home? I mean, we do require our folks, right? We give them guidance if you're going to work from home, that we give criteria related to, you know, a safety assessment of their work area, ergonomics and other things. And we've tried to provide them support on that. We had a lot of debate whether we needed to do inspections, right? And say, geez, but it was just too massive, right? How would we do that? How could we really get involved on looking at workspace? But if we go to a permanent, if we have employees that do move to a permanent work from home status, which is a different status within our company, where they're authorized to do their job full-time from home, we do list them on our insurance schedule. Their address is listed on their schedule. It is kind of an extension of our offices. And you know, we have had situations of workers' comp in people's homes, and there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question that can involve expertise from legal and accounting people. Certainly, there's going to be a lot of allowances made for the COVID adjustments we make. So what I did want to bring up is a previous comment that Scott made about writing off 2020. I like that. Good work, Scott. Ever since I gave up hope, I feel much better. You know, so that's the kind of attitude we look at. But Matt, you've got a different perspective, I'm sure. I mean, WeWork, what a marquee name. Certainly one that's out there, and you present a great alternative to a lot of people out there, both businesses, from your entrepreneurs to your Fortune 500 type of companies here. But why don't you explain a little bit? I mean, people know the name, certainly, but they don't understand the concept of flexible leasing. You know, how does it work? Why do we need it? What kind of benefit will it provide within this COVID situation now?
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, it's been an interesting run since the pandemic has gone, because in a lot of ways, I think everything you were asking are the kinds of questions that probably over a couple year period we're definitely maturing, but they've all come to now, and everybody's asking these questions. So as it relates to flexible leasing, the simplest way to put it is it's beautifully appointed, safe, clean, serviced, flexible office space that you can use when you need it and how you need it. And that's it in its nutshell. So the way I like to try and do it, and Scott can probably weigh in a little bit too on this, is, you know, I look at traditional leasing as a little bit more of like a wholesale type experience. You go and find your box, and then you decide within there, is this the right location? Is this the right building? Is this the right floor? And you build out your space the way you like it. And then that's yours to use however you want to use it. Essentially what we're trying to do is take that whole process and just deliver it to you right out of the gate, because one of the things we see, particularly with like especially now, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're a Fortune 500 company, is, leasing is a, kind of a linear static process, but needs go like this all the time. And especially if you look at even over a corporate portfolio, that's happening all the time. So one of the things we're trying to provide is your ability to take what is normally a static need or supply and make it variable with business change, because I think we could all agree, like, businesses change a lot faster than our space needs. And that's essentially what we're doing. So, in addition to that, it kind of goes from there. And one of the other things that's quite interesting with it is it's really, the way I look at it, is a supply network, whether that's like within the Los Angeles metro or in San Fernando Valley. Like, we have a location in Woodland Hills. We have a location here where I'm at in the NoHo Arts District. We've got another one in Burbank, and we have another 45 all over the city. You can use those however you want to use them. So you're not just bound to the location where you may want to be today. You can be anywhere you want to be on any day at any time. That's really the gist of it at the end of the day. And then what we work a lot with folks on is just defining what they'd like to control within this environment. Do you need just an office? Do you need a large office? Do you need touchdown space? That's one thing we're seeing a lot with people asking us for today. Say, hey, I used to have 2 floors of office space. I only need room for 20 people at a time, but I just need a place where my people can come together when they need to. Or there's specific use cases where they're saying, hey, we're in research and development and we need our teams there all day, or we're a collaborative gaming company and we need to be developing games together because it's an interactive process. They're coming to work and they're looking for places to do it, but they're also saying, if things change, we might want to actually, grow really, really quickly. And that's one of the things that we can do, is we can say, hey, you can come in today at the size that you need. And if that grows, great. And if you also want to do it in 2 or 3 or 4 locations, you can do that as well. And we set it up such that you can change that decisioning process as you go. So you're not bound into 3 or 5 or 10-year lease terms, which sometimes happen depending on how much space you need and where you're trying to get it. So, as it relates to why that really works well is number one, it helps with a lot of upfront capital. These are expensive to set up. And this is a time when people and businesses are looking at, preserving capital. This is an unknown environment. People don't know where it's going. It's a huge thing that we get asked all day long is, we just can't spend money on building and fitting out space, but your stuff is great and it's ready to go. And that's one of the benefits we have. I mean, I think in 2018, we built 30 million square feet across the planet. And I think we were the largest builder at the time. So our ability to learn and iterate is going at a rate that's much faster than like an individual might have, where they do it once every 3, 5, 7 years. So that's a big piece of it. And then, at the end of the day, the thing that's the most important right now is safety. And this is what we're bringing to bear on our entire network. We have over 800 locations globally. And just as an example, we, have been operating in China with 100 locations since May. So everything we've been learning, where places we're opening up sooner around the planet, we're infusing back into our other locations. So as an example, we put over $30 million into our network right now of various safety things. We've looked at distancing components. We've rolled out programs to provide safety to our existing memberships. And we're continuing to refine that as we go here. So that's one of the things that I think is helpful, is that you don't have to do all this stuff yourself. You have a partner to help you do it. And then we do it in a way that, has a hotel environment to it. So it's fully serviced, so great coffees, to great support staff, to all the conferencing spaces you need, learning rooms, you name it, it's all there. And that's the idea, is to say, hey, let's take that whole part out of this. And you got a lot to worry about, is focusing on your business. And I don't think there's anybody coming out of this unscathed in one form or another. Just stay there and we'll take care of everything else for you.
Right. And that's a big factor right now. Safety is so important. I know everyone's focused on that. But there's a lot of factors that go into safety, a lot of different things. And one of them I think is very important in this situation is the mental well-being of our employees and our clients. And how do you approach that? How do you keep them happy when they're remote, they're away from their colleagues, they don't feel like they have a support system? There's a lot of different things in there. And Susan, how do you approach that there at Synergy?
Well, it's been tough. We have been a Zoom society for a long time. So even pre-pandemic, because we have people working around the globe, we do have a lot of people that are home officed as well. But it's hard not to get together and collaborate. But we do have an all hands meeting every month where we bring everybody in from around the globe and talk about what's going on. And we have our leadership really kind of get a pulse check from everyone to see how they're doing. And we've done some things as crazy as just having an all hands kind of yoga class where we're all getting up. I mean, we're stopping the business and we're all standing up and we're kind of trying to just do a little yoga and do some things to get our minds off of this is a crazy situation that we're in. We're working so hard every single day. Let's just kind of take a break. Like the other day, we had an all hands vision meeting and everybody was in their Halloween costumes. And so it was just kind of giving people a little extra way to get a release. I think we did an escape room for our sales team and we just took a time in the day. We took like an hour and a half and we did a virtual escape room. So we're doing different things with our teams to kind of get them away from the everyday to just give them a little break and make sure everybody's kind of okay and breathing and smiling and having some fun.
Well, that's a great situation. I'm glad you're flexible and focused on that. You mentioned Halloween. I personally am done with that. I've been wearing a mask and eating chocolate for the last 6 months anyway, so it's all good. But Scott, from your point of view, I mean, I know you've got a lot of things going on here with your clients and things. How does it work with, some of the different factors they're dealing with? What concerns did they come to you with?
Well, first, when I was humorously joking that we are riding out for the rest of the year. We are open for business. We are making deals. It's just a different kind of deals and different scope of work. It's just not the velocity we had pre-COVID, but we are busy. But the questions we have, like Matt's product for us, we've done plenty of deals in WeWork, my partners and I, around the region. Most of the stuff is locally, the Valley base. So it's just another product line we offer our clients to show. Like our clients are asking a million questions. If the lease expires, if they were growing before COVID, there's a good chance they're not growing now and they renewed for 6 months to a year. So you have to renegotiate that contract. Owners are being very aggressive. One in particular has been extraordinarily aggressive. Some others are following suit. So you have to understand where the market is. Pre-COVID, the market is, unless it's going up, up, and up, or down, 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 it's in the middle, there's a band of where that deal should be. And that's where the brokers add value. They tell you the comps, they understand. In COVID, the band is much wider. There is no band. There is no normalcy. You have to know on a daily basis, literally on a daily basis, what owners are offering what and what's best for you. Is it best for you to stay put and renew 6 months? Is it best for you to grow and take new space? The rates right now are extraordinarily low with all the concessions you're getting and the face rate. So if you have the ability to move and sign a new lease or stay inside a long-term lease, fantastic. But they're asking questions about the safety in the building, the HVAC system, hand sanitizers, elevator. Some clients have no problem going up to a high rise. Some clients absolutely want to go down to a 1 or 2 story building or 3 story where they can walk the staircases. Some owners are going touchless, touchless access systems. I have a building in Tarzana we are rebuilding for medical. It's going to be all COVID friendly. Good timing. A lot of clients are looking to buy buildings. SBA financing is fantastic. If you can buy your own building and be within your own little domain, why not? We're selling some creative office lofts on Cahuenga, very popular because you have a private entrance, private garage, private HVAC, private yard. People want to get away from people, some. But again, there's plenty of businesses want an image building. They want to be in that Class A high rise. It's all across the board. The questions right now are mostly comfort level. Is that building comfortable for them to be in? And then just behind it is economics. Real estate in my world is primarily economics. My joke is I can never do residential. Residential is 80% emotions, 20% business. my business is 80% business, 20% emotions. Comes down to the numbers.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, you pointed out a big factor here: control over the space that they have, whether it's control in terms of a lease and control in terms of the environmental HVAC stuff. It's all very important. And I loved your comment about people want to get away from people. Here we are in a computer right now talking to each other. So,
well, it was someone asked about the Zooms. I know a lot of people are Zoom dead. They're tired of it. They want interaction. My job, the great part of my job is I see people. I love talking to people. I love meeting different businesses. So my partners, we're out in the street every day. Less today, and we have more door openings, but we are still meeting clients, safe distance with masks. We have protocols in place, but we're out there talking to people on a daily basis, face to face. I can't do a Zoom meeting. We are using technology to show spaces, Matterport, videos, that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, my business is face-to-face communication and showing a product, and that has to be done. It is my belief that the vast majority of businesses will go back to work with a little bit on the side of the home because you need that interpersonal communication. Growing, I would love to hire brokers. We're hiring staff, brokers, but it's hard to mentor them today. It's hard to train them when we're in COVID. The face-to-face, see the face. When I have my mask on showing spaces to people, I can't read their facial expressions, what their thoughts are on it. So that's different. If I made one question, someone asked in the chat room about, do schools need to reopen first? I don't think so. It is definitely a factor. I have had deals live and die because it's ready to be signed, and then they had their child was coming home and they had to watch them. It is a percentage of the workforce, whatever spouse watches it, or single parents. But I think that's where the company will be flexible. If the schools do not reopen, the jobs do, the companies will be flexible, allowing that person flexible hours or work from home. Everyone mentioned before about, Andy mentioned as well, the VPNs. We have technology for staff working in a home. We have technology for the brokers to work from home. So it all encompassing in that regards.
Right. Hey, so we've had a lot of questions here on chat, and I think a lot of them relate to either schools reopening or childcare being a limitation to individuals, and also what protocols are involved. So, Andy, as a private employer, what kind of things are you doing with your employees to keep it flexible?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. And to be quite frank, one of the biggest challenges we've had is geographically, I mean, things are happening at different paces and the rules are different, and the situation is vastly different depending on which community you're in. And so, one of the things that, I kind of mentioned it before, but flexibility has been very key to us. I mean, everybody has their unique challenges, and we have to, as an employer, we got to work hard to make sure that we're doing what we can to help our employees get through this and deal with their personal issues. And so many folks do have, I think I look at the school situation. I mean, we have areas, and quite frankly, I'm located in Idaho. I mean, we have schools that are fully back to, moving, and there's businesses and that are, people are engaged and back in the office. In some locations, that's not possible. But there's also the situation where we do have, folks that do have kids that their schools aren't open and they're having to homeschool, or they're having to help them and deal with that situation. I don't know what the answer is really from what's the best way to get the economy back and going and prevent the spread of this darn thing. I don't know if anybody's gonna know that probably until we're done and somebody reassesses it. But I think, the big part for us is it's flexibility. And I've kind of found that this flexibility thing is unique to every situation. And there's a lot of retraining of some of our managers because we have a paradigm of what work is, right? It's show up at 8 o'clock in the morning, you work till 5, you take an hour lunch, whatever, and you go home. And I don't think we're ever going to go back to that, in my opinion. I think flexibility has got to be part of the puzzle, from this point forward, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting perspective. You know, there's a question here from Michael Oldnick out of the audience, and he says that he went from having all staff work locally to now having numerous staff work virtually in many different locations across the U.S. and even internationally. And this may not be within the purview here. You know, Andy, you're in Idaho. I'd love you. But what does anyone have an idea of or an understanding of the implications of someone working outside the jurisdiction of that business? I mean, you know, for instance, some municipalities tax based upon your employees that work there. And here in Los Angeles, for instance, if you work in Los Angeles, but yet now all of a sudden you're working in Pasadena, that count for the headcount tax kind of thing. I don't know. Matt, maybe you know from WeWork experience here, maybe some, you know, guess on what this might mean.
I mean, from what little I do know, and I don't know a ton, I mean, my sense is a lot of that is tied into, number one, where you claim for residency. I mean, that's just some of the things I've seen from people that are considering this, because this is a question we get a lot, especially because I do a fair amount of work up in the Bay Area too. And these questions are coming up of like, you know, do I need to be here anymore? And these are the interesting questions that come into this. And this is one component of it for sure. You know, especially for those who are thinking, maybe I should do this for 6 months, 9 months. And then some people are certainly thinking about it, you know, even more permanently. It's an interesting time. It's one of these things that it's, I think it'll continue to evolve. I'm guessing that laws and recognition around business and tax implications and residencies and all that will continue to evolve as well. I mean, you know, I like to say to people, we're all just making this up a little bit as we go here, and we're doing the best we can and figuring it out. But, you know, it's been so interesting. Like, as an example for us, like we deal a lot with technology companies, and there has always been a very strong sense that that needs to be done in person. And you need to be where you are, and you need to be around the centers of investment, the centers of education, the centers of, you know, experienced employees and creativity. You know, this is the first time on a macro basis where this whole thing has been upended, and it's been this grand experiment that I think people have tried to test a little bit at a time, and now we're all in it. You know, I think the cat's out of the bag on a lot of this, and you know, how it all shakes out will take a little bit of time, but you know, again, I think it comes back to whether it's this or how you deal with family and children's education. And, you know, as we all know, little children have, you know, completely different needs than high school children. You know, I think all of that just comes back to, again, whether it's the employer or the employee or just us as people, like we'll figure it out. We'll be flexible. We'll work with each other. And I think that's the best thing that we can do is just express, you know, common shared empathy for our collective situation here.
Right.
And if I could add to that, you know, we're seeing that quite a bit in our space with corporations. They have hired people. There's a lot of pent up demand. And so there's a lot of people that have been hired in the last year, and they've got to go because these tax implications are very real. So if they're hired in Chicago, but they're working, their corporation is going to relocate them to California or Dublin, Ireland, or Singapore. They've got to make a decision what they're going to do by the end of the year. And a lot of companies are kind of giving people the opportunity. In January, you've got to decide, where do you want to be? Because we've got to figure this out from a tax perspective. So we're seeing a lot of that right now. Just to add to that, it's definitely a real thing, and it's a challenge.
Yeah, that's an interesting comment, Susan, because I think, you know, I'd like to throw it out to everyone here on the panel. I mean, what have you seen from your clients? What are they demanding now that's different? You know, are they looking for better Wi-Fi within their office situations? Are they looking for options for childcare, maybe on site? Are they looking for better things for food, let's say food service for their employees? What kind of demands that are new, that are maybe COVID related, that are you seeing from your clients?
In my world, everything you said is pre-COVID, post-COVID. It's all on the checklist of when they look for office space. Right now, I'm seeing economics. There is always a cost to relocate, but to relocate to get a better price, to save 5%, most people don't do. People usually relocate because they hate the building, hate the location, and they need a lot more space. They don't move just to save a nickel. It's not worth it, transaction cost. So they move for more personal reasons. Amenities, I think nowadays, a lot of people are looking to work closer to home. And I'm based in Sherman Oaks. It used to be, the joke is that everyone in Encino, Sherman Oaks, when they start their law practice or consulting practice, they go to Central City, Beverly Hills, because it sounds good. 10, 15 years later, they're established. They go, I don't want to drive anymore. I want to go back to Encino, and that's Encino. And migration has changed over the years, and that a lot of these companies have become successful. They moved to Thousand Oaks, Agoura, Lake Sherwood. The entertainment industry was always in Burbank. Then you had mobile apps, you had gaming, you have video apps, you have TikTok, you have all these new media businesses. They expanded into creative space in the Sherman Oaks market, Studio City, Encino, Woodland Hills. Now you have people spread out, and they say, I don't have to be in one location anymore. They could be anywhere they want to be. Facebook took space in Northridge, Granite Hills area. Amazon's taking space. I'm on Ventura and Sepulveda. I don't need to be here anymore. I can be anywhere. That's one thing I think COVID taught you also, is you don't have to be one place. So when people are looking, they want a fun atmosphere. Define fun, to each your own. Matt has a fun environment. He had more fun when they served beer in their place. I don't know if they do it anymore, but they want a place to eat and drink. They want easy access. Every tenant is different. Every tenant perception of what they need is different. But right now it's economics. And then fall behind, if I go to that building, as we said before, am I safe? Am I comfortable? One of the visitors asked about COVID-friendly environment. Well, most buildings these days have a variety of signs. They have the placards on the floor in the elevators, 2 or 4 people max, 6 feet behind. They have sanitizers. In office spaces, most environments have wearing your mask. If you walk around, you don't need a mask at your desk. When someone comes to your desk, we're both wearing masks. Most people have protocols in place, but usually, or realistically, that is dictated by management. Orange County, someone mentioned, is more crowded. Orange County is a little more lax than maybe Sherman Oaks.
Right, and that lax and control is different from place to place to place. I mean, I work in a building that's kind of not upscale. It's not Sherman Oaks, but dumpy, and I used to be depressed by that. But then I realized in this situation, I'm glad it's kind of dumpy, because even COVID wouldn't be caught dead going into my building. So maybe it's a safer thing for me. But
well, you don't need Class A. There's plenty of good quality Class B buildings that are just clean. Some people want that high-rise Class A feel. Some people like to be off the boulevard in a nice, clean building. Again, to each your own, as long as you're happy in your space.
Right, and like you say, economics is part of that. But other things, there's what I've learned in business in the last 50 years is that with every challenge, every obstacle, there's an opportunity. And what opportunities have you seen for your businesses, maybe with this situation? Andy, why don't we go with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, obviously we're not in the lease business, right? So it's probably not going to be real estate or probably related to space. But this whole COVID-19 thing has been an interesting change for us, just broadly on the needs within the community, on trying to provide guidance to folks, and how do you maintain your business when you have a positive case within your building, and there's threat that people won't come to their business because there was some sort of an outbreak. And so, to a certain extent, that's really kind of, at least over the last 6-8 months, transformed our services a little bit of what we've been doing, but that's all related to this COVID-19. I think the one thing that's interesting, I don't know if this is going to, I look at I'm on the other side of the real estate side, right? I mean, we've got a number of leases that we have that are coming up. We've been having a lot of debate over, wow, do we go to more of a permanent work from home situation and reduce our footprint? And there's been a lot of discussion internally on that subject. And it's been interesting on some of our leases, to give perspectives in some communities. We've got about 40,000 feet that we're trying to renew in Michigan area. And that, earlier in the year, we were looking, we're going to have to move out, right? This was going to go up. I mean, huge discount and a need and a desire to have a much longer term on that lease, and it really transformed, okay, how do we want to look at this from a standpoint of, moving more, shrinking our size, working from home, or looking at the economics of this today and saying, no, let's have more collaborative space and kind of work, reframe our offices a bit. And I could, I think we're still thinking through that. I can tell you, to circle back to one of the other questions on, that really came up on concerns on how do you engage people. I personally have serious concerns about going to a full work from home scenario and how you maintain corporate culture. I believe that culture is built off of trust, right? And our employee engagement is built on trust. And that trust really requires close relationships, right? And building relationships. And I think that this has worked for us in a short term, right? Because those relationships existed. I really worry about bringing new employees in and how do we maintain the culture and how do we do that without having to have that, the chit chat about your family in the break room or before a meeting or after a meeting. I think it's a big risk. And I think, I've seen a lot of the larger companies saying, hey, we're just going to go and have everybody work from home. We've not made that decision. And I might be an old timer, I guess, in this game and not fully recognizing what the younger generation gets jazzed up about. But I do really worry. That's probably one of my biggest concerns about making drastic decisions on rental space, right? On going permanently work from home or maintaining space that they can come in and work and collaborate. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Randy, you said you were considering moving, but to stay now is so cheap, it's worth it to stay. Is that what you're saying in Michigan?
Yeah. And it's, we're probably looking at term, on some of the terms. It's just that, I think people are nervous about being able to fill office space. And, and I could say, I'm not in that space business, but I look at downtown Boise where my office is, and we have, our offices here. There's been some big tenants that have gone to a permanent work from home and freed up a significant amount of office space down here, right? And of course, supply and demand, right? It'll be interesting to see what happens with
well, Boise is different than Los Angeles, and we have an office in Boise, believe it or not. But the opportunities, Victor, you mentioned depends what you need. I haven't heard anyone really saying they're permanently working from home, unless it's a sole practitioner or a two-person office or something like that. Most people I've spoken to said they will definitely go back to work. Even those who have not renewed their lease and are working from home, they will go back to the office. Full capacity, to be determined, maybe 15% less. Who knows what percent will go out for it. But the opportunities are now, because the economics are there, how can you get more for your money? As Andy mentioned, there's a tenant I was moving out of a building locally. We were ready to go. His landlord knocked his rent from $15,000 a month to $9,000 a month. You do the math, that's a pretty big reduction. So that's an opportunity. With some small businesses aren't doing so great. They own small buildings around town, North Hollywood, Burbank, wherever that may be. They are getting an opportunity because they can sell their building for good numbers. Companies who want to get out of buildings and want to buy the buildings with low SBA rates can go buy those buildings. Catch-22, those prices are not going down. Investments different, rents yes, but small businesses no. The opportunity is if you have the ability right now, your lease is expiring, you have an opportunity. I met a woman in my building parking lot the other day, we're chatting. She said, well, I have 2 years left on my lease. I said, well, you missed the boat. You do not have opportunity. But if you have a time when your lease is expiring now, you have tremendous opportunity to find places, take advantage of the market, wherever that may be. And those are the nuggets you need to find around. Because you look at the rents, the market reports, the rents don't show that much reduction. The vacancy shows a lot, but the rents don't show because people aren't really telling you on the ask rates what the rents are. You need to know under the hood. Under the hood shows completely different. And you mentioned Boise's is vacant space. The sublet market is huge. So you have to understand the comps and why they're cheaper. And that's where those opportunities exist if you have the ability to take advantage of the opportunities.
Yeah, and those are, go ahead, Susan.
Well, I was just going to add to that opportunity from a financial standpoint when we're, again, going back to the relocation world and companies relocating their employees. So typically they want to be right close to the office, right? And some of these offices are located in very high rent districts. But now that people are going back to work maybe 2 days a week and working from home, 50-50, they don't need to be so close to the office because their days to commute are not as often. So we can look outside of those locations that are right by the office that might be a little bit affordable from a rent perspective for corporate housing. So we're kind of going on the outskirts, and maybe that would be more where they're going to live permanently. And so we can get them there quicker and save these corporations money by getting them into less expensive corporate housing because it's not right next to the office.
Well, Susan, that leads into a lot of people are thinking suburban markets for office space will improve because someone who lives in Castaic doesn't want to drive downtown. So corporations will have suburban offices so they don't have to commute as much.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a lot of people asking those questions who've made decisions to concentrate in CBD environments, whether it's downtown or Century City or, Santa Monica is looking at all these different nodes, because if you come back to it as a business, you got to look and say, where are my people, number one, and does that make sense for us to continue to have everybody come in? And then number two, where can I hire from? Which I think is kind of interesting in some of the questions that are coming through on the panel side too is, there are people that are looking at, how do you take this distributed model and use it? It's a very interesting time. It comes back to, I think, in a lot of ways, all of us, we deal with this inside our own house with how we run our businesses. What is an effective and enriching employee experience? And then what are the conditions that we need to create as people to have strong innovation, have viable businesses that are thriving, and have the people that work there, happy, healthy, and feeling good about what they're doing, no matter where they are. It's just an interesting time right now on that front because so much is being learned in real time. And I think we'll continue to see that across the board for sure. Like I said, I spend a lot of time with customers, and these are the kinds of questions that we spend more time on than we do, what does our space look like? Because they're asking these things in the context of what do we need to deliver and realize as a business. And then you can kind of wrap, location solutions on it, hiring plans, et cetera, around those things. So it's a very interesting time to try and deal with all of that all at once, for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of this is based upon long-term planning. No corporation goes and says, I'm going to speak out a 1 month lease here because I don't know what'll happen next month. They look at 5, 10-year, 15-year leases. And we're trying to decide on this COVID thing based upon months worth of information. And that information seems like it changes from week to week. Not only that, but we also have to deal with all of us here who have clients or are working with situations that are multi-state. And what they do in California or Los Angeles is not what they do in Nevada, Idaho, or San Francisco. And so, one place may say, oh, you need hand sanitizing stations every 5 feet. The other one says, oh, you need, sanitizing wipes, every. But they've got a plan for multiple situations here. But given that we do have a lot of people that work multi-state or multi-geographic areas, is this going to change the remote work in the respect of the employee pool now change, do you think? You can get somebody from out of state to work in your office remotely. How's that going to work, do you think, Andy?
We already had we have a lot of folks that work, out of their home that we hire. We're looking for the best talent on, and I think you have to look at what job it is, right? If we're looking for professional positions, we have a lot of folks that do work out of their home in, position, and we hired them, and, we've been doing that for many years. But it's a great question. And we've had the same discussion here is okay, does this open up the hiring pool And are we going to be more flexible on saying, geez, do you really need to come to, move to, let's say Nevada, right? And you have to physically be located there. I think it is going to open up the door for a lot more opportunities for people to, to look at jobs elsewhere. I think, as a businesses, I think are going to be a lot more flexible on remote work. I think all of us has been thrown into this. I think have learned a ton, right? About wow, it does work, right? You can actually, we have actually been able to put 25% of our workforce in their home within a month of this thing starting. And you know what, people, I don't, we have lots of debates. Did we lose efficiency? I don't know. But you know what, things are ticking pretty well. It's amazing to me, right? But is it sustainable? That's another question. But certainly, I think there's I mentioned probably I'm of the generation that is used to coming to work 8 to 5, right? And I certainly look at, wow, okay, there is a different way to do this than to have people come to work every day. So I think it's going to really open the doors up for that sort of thing. And there's another question on here that's interesting of, geez, well, does that mean that people can, allowing people to move and live somewhere else and work and, and I can tell you, if you look at real estate in Idaho, there's a lot of people moving here that work in California. It's pretty interesting to me on how many people I bump into that don't work here, but live here. And it's, I think that transition is already happening.
Victor, if I may, it depends all on the business, the type of business you're in. Some companies need the 3, 5, 10-year term. Some companies can do 6 months, a max product. So that's all depending upon your structure. If you're a 10-person law firm, you need a home base. You're a 10-person CPA firm, you need a home base. If you're a consulting company where you have 2 support staff and 10 consultants, that's a completely different story. So it really depends upon the business you're in.
Oh, absolutely. And you bring up a good point, Scott. I don't know about Lee and Associates, you in particular, but you may deal with particularly office space or industrial, but yet what's really affecting this here and getting off our expertise a little bit here is the retail and the hospitality spaces. Those are spaces where a lot of the small entrepreneurs are working, and many of them will not come back. They can't survive this length of time with 0 to 10% of their business that they had. And so how is that going to change the market? What about all this retail space, all the hospitality restaurant stuff? Where are they going to go? How are they going to work it all? It's really a big challenge here. But for Matt and for Susan, there's a question here for Mark Jaffe. It says if you put corporate housing further out in the suburbs, maybe people can no longer use transit or commuting, to get in. And that applies to offices too. What about the opportunities to put WeWork spaces out in more remote locations? Do you foresee that happening right now, either for housing or for the office space?
Well, from a temporary housing perspective, it depends on the corporation, because there's a lot of companies, and yet they are the bigger companies. They have shuttle buses. They have shuttle buses that go so far out. When you look at the Facebooks and the Googles and the Genentechs and these corporations here in the Bay Area, their offices may be in Menlo Park in San Francisco, but they're coming. I live in Pleasanton, California. There's Facebook shuttles here in Pleasanton. They come out all the way this way, and they provide their employees a way to commute. Now, if it is a smaller company and you're looking to relocate outside, then there is going to have to be some type of alternative type of commute options, whether it is a van pool or commuting with someone or just even driving on your own. Right now, though, while we're in this pandemic, public transportation is a tough thing to take. And I know that our BART system is pretty empty right now. And I know that in New York, the subway is not as busy. So public transportation isn't as desirable right now, but it will come back. And when it comes back, and if this notion of being further out, because it is more affordable, sticks, when you're working with these big companies, they're going to provide you with the transportation because they're already doing it.
And can I give you my boss's name and phone number?
Absolutely. I would be happy to chat, have that conversation.
I'm sure he'd give me one of those bird scooters, and that's about it. But Matt, what do you think about opportunities there? You know, Susan had a good point about demand driving location. Is that happening too with what you see?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, whether it's LA or San Francisco or anywhere where there's, you know, large metropolitan area, New York, you name it, especially ones that are, to Susan's point, highly dependent upon public transportation, or in the case of the Bay Area, and it is to me public transportation, the private busing and shuttling systems in place. You know, they exist because there's always been the assumption that everybody needs to concentrate for work, and that's why it exists. That is obviously up for debate right now as to, is that entirely what a company wants to do? Is it in part, or do they want to abandon it completely? And I think, you know, just I think some of the things Scott was saying, you know, that spectrum is wide, and there's many companies from many different industries on various points of that. So it's not like we just, as I see it, you know, just tech in one area, just FinCos in another, and law in a different area. It's all over the place. So one of the things we see a lot is these questions of, you know, how do I use, you know, WeWork's like supply nodes that are outside of like core areas. We have them. So you know, we continue to see that. We're continuing to look at how do we serve businesses and individuals in those. I think that will continue to be a piece of the puzzle going forward. And I think, again, it's a longer walk, but it's that recalibration of like, how do you want to organize for work going forward? And I think that narrative will settle down here probably in another 12 to 24 months, regardless of what happens, I think, within, you know, the pandemic impact. But I think people are just going to start realizing this is the way our company needs to operate, and we'll start hearing some more consistent narratives. I certainly heard it in the last 6 months. I mean, it started with, no, we don't need anything, to, could we just talk about how we might use it, to now I definitely have people asking like 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week, like, can we sit down and talk about like, what does Monday morning look like if we want to do this? So it's already happening a bit. I think it will continue. I think the public transportation one will be interesting to see how people respond and drive safety into those environments, because that's a hard thing. Like in the Bay Area, you know, if you look on the East Bay, 45% of the labor force lives in the East Bay. And your options are Bay Bridge and BART to get over. And Bay Bridge was tough before, even when people were using BART. I don't even know how you do it now if it got back to normal. So it's going to open up these questions, and it is already.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough situation. Any kind of rapid transit, I think people are going to start wearing those big environmental suits, walking out and around like the Michelin Man or something like that. But we have about 10 minutes left. I want to go around and just give everyone the chance to talk for a couple of minutes about anything they want to about this particular situation, how it affects their business. So Scott, why don't you give us the wrap up here?
Yeah, thanks. Good conversation that we're all coming from different avenues of personal and work life. But in summary, I would say the real estate market is state of flux, and there is no normalcy. Pre-COVID, current COVID, post-COVID, the most important thing is ask questions, whether it's me, your attorney, your Matt, or anyone tied to your business. Seek questions, look for options. Once you know the options, then you can determine what's best for you. Right now, the problem is most people don't have a 3 to 5 year plan, much less a year plan. They don't know if their production is stuck on the docks in the Far East Asia, or other employees have the kid issues right now from school, they can't come to work. No one has all the answers, so they want flexibility. There are some companies know where they're going to be. So the most important thing right now is, if you have a need, explore all possible options, whether that's going to a 3 to 5 or 10 year lease, whether it's going to a WeWork type environment where it's flexibility, whether it's going to be renew your lease for short term. Understand your options. Being educated is the most important factor in all our businesses. And just don't presume you know what you're talking about. Get the answers, ask the questions, educate yourself, and then go forward. And it's going to come back. You know, Our country, the world has been through tons of different cycles in the world, health and or business. It will come back. We've lost technology, we had a recession, all these things, they bounce back. Different industries come around. Entertainment studios are laying off people. Those people create new businesses. So I am optimistic, cautiously optimistic for the future. Right now, we understand the reality what we're living in, but I'm confident it will come back, and Los Angeles, to California, this country will be fine going forward. It's just a momentary blip in our life.
Excellent, Scott. I salute your faith in our economy and our society, and I echo that. So, Susan, what are your thoughts here?
Well, I mean, yes, it's going to come back, and we're seeing kind of shifts and trends of how it is coming back. You know, you hear these tech companies saying they're not going back to work till June of 2021, but the reality is they are. They are in small groups. They have to be together. They're finding that they can't continue their business without collaborating and being together. So you know, for us at Synergy, we're going to continue to shift and to pivot. We have a pretty we've been known for our innovative spirit, and between what I shared today with Synergy Cares and Synergy Work, we're not done. We need to keep shifting and pivoting and innovating in order to adjust and really to adapt to this new normal. So we're going to still be, you know, getting to work to see what else can we do to help and provide safe alternative options for people that are going, for everybody that's going through it, and stay safe and sane ourselves, because we will also continue as a company to, you know, the big thing that you hear from one of our co-founders is if you take care of your people, they'll take care of you, and together you take care of the customer. And that is part of our philosophy, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Excellent. Safe and sane is always first of my motto there, although safe right now, sane, not so much after a Lakers and a Dodgers championship. So we're seeing what's going on. Andy, give us your perspective.
Great. Yeah, I don't even think 2020 has been sane. I think it's been insane this year. But, you know, I think, you know, generally when I look at this, there is a number of things that have happened over the last, you know, 6-8 months that businesses learned from, and it's going to turn to a permanent change on how we do business. I mean, the way we're communicating right now, I think is going to become more of the norm. I don't think there's any question in my mind. Now, when we start getting into the discussion of the people, right, and working from home versus working in the office, you know, as a business, I think the lesson I've learned is flexibility is key, right? Our employees want flexibility. They need to deal with their personal issues. They want to be able, if they want to work late or they want to work at night to get their job done, this should not be what hours you work. It should be what things did you get done, right? On how we judge our employees to the best of our ability. And so that's certainly something I've learned. And I think that's going to be a theme of the new generation that's going to be, you know, running this world at some point. The other thing that, you know, and probably one of hesitancy that we didn't talk about much, but that I worry about on just, you know, holistically jumping into work from home. I think every employee is different. I think every person is different. And I think I look at folks in our organization, there's a number of people that are incredibly successful working from home. Other people struggle, right? It's their personality. And you know, we have developed some programs to try to go to, if people want to go to a more permanent process, but it is not the employee's decision, it's the manager's decision, because they have to be able to feel comfortable that this person can be effective and efficient working from home. And so, you know, that's where I kind of get into the flexibility piece. I think making a decision that one is better than the other, or one is going to work better than the other, I don't think that's the right way to look at this. I think, you know, providing flexibility and encouraging our employees to participate in the work environment the way they will be most effective is the answer.
Great, thank you. You know, you've said a couple of things there. Flexibility is certainly the key to this, but a lot of the factors are driven by conditions outside of our control. Whether you're a big corporation or you're an entrepreneur, we have to go with what's out there. You may want a building that's green, but all that's available is red. You take what you can and you go from there. You know, you're right. Every situation is different. We're all unique, just like the other 7 billion people on the earth. But there's no reason to reinvent the wheel, you know, and I think that being flexible is certainly key. And I think one of the parts of flexibility is having new alternatives like what you have there at WeWork, Matt. What do you think about
that? Yeah, I think, you know, clearly we're all defining this, like I said before, as we go. And I think, you know, for me, the biggest thing is, you know, to continue to remain in a state of learning and understanding, not only for, you know, what works and helps you as an individual thrive, but your organization and the people that you work with. And, you know, for me, that just is I continually remind myself, certainly with our staff and both here in Los Angeles and globally, you know, this is an evolving thing, and we're here for each other, first and foremost. And I think that's a huge piece of this thing is just we all have to lean on each other a little bit to navigate through what is an incredibly murky environment with not a clear outcome. But, you know, as it relates to, you know, our city here in Los Angeles and our state, I mean, this is one of the most thriving, dynamic environments of creativity and, you know, progressive offerings to the world that help move it forward. I mean, I will always be bullish on California. I was born and raised in California. I love this place. We do things that are just exceptional here. I think that will continue. I think it will continue in a modified state, no doubt. And it'll probably modify a few times, but that's okay, because at the end of the day, I think, you know, what we're doing is great. And so I remain incredibly bullish on what we do and how this city and state will end up at the end of this, because of the fact that, you know, we're pushing boundaries in so many areas, whether it's technology or media and entertainment, you name it, we do it. And we live in one of the nicest places on the world too. So it's a great place to be. And I think as long as we just, you know, keep leaning on each other through this process and learn and grow, that's the best part of it. And we're going to be all right when we get through that.
Absolutely. And bravo to that sentiment. Thank you for putting that out there here. I want to thank all of you here as we get right around 11:35 here for your time. Susan Becker, Managing Director of Sales for Energy Global Housing. Andrew Marshall, Executive Vice President of Environmental Health and Safety at U.S. Ecology. Matthew Osborn, Head of Leasing at WeWork. Scott Romick, a great person, Principal and Managing Director of Lee & Associates. My name is Victor Berrellez. I work at U.S. Bank. I'm sure if you have other questions or want to make some comments, you'll find all of us on LinkedIn or somewhere like that. So please feel free to reach out to me. I appreciate that. So let's thank our track sponsor, the University of Phoenix, for sponsoring this, and our panel sponsor, Synergy Global Housing. Yay, thank you. If we were in person, I asked for applause, but just a great big thank you for spending your morning with us today. Just a reminder for everyone in the audience, our keynote speaker will begin at 11:50 a.m. today. So I encourage all of you to visit the exhibitors outside there in the Pathable area so you can enter the raffle for your chance to win a number of prizes, including round-trip tickets on Southwest, a signed jersey from the Los Angeles Rams, and of course, lots of gift cards. So out there, take a look at some of those things. You have to collect, I think, little points from each of the exhibitors to enter the raffle. But again, thanks to everyone there. And that brings us to the end of our meeting. Thanks very much.
Thank you, everybody. Victor,
thanks everybody.
Bye-bye.